it's Samantha, and this is going to be my last freezer meal Friday for a while because I ran out of freezer space. I have filled up the freezer with a bunch of stuff, and we still have some, meats and packaged stuff to use up, but for now I'm out of freezer space. This video, I'm going to show you two different recipes using the same things. I'm making enchiladas, and I'm also making enchilada casserole. It's basically the same thing, just one with rolled enchiladas and one with just layers of enchiladas. So as I showed you in the very beginning, I've got a can of diced tomatoes, a can of green chili sauce, and also a can of cream of chicken soup. And that is the mixture inside this bowl. I had made some the night before and had some left over. I'm going to show you my filling items here. I've got some rotel tomatoes, some pinto beans I made in the crock pot. All I did was I let them soak in my crock pot dish overnight in the fridge, rinsed them off, and then filled the container up with water again. And then just cooked them on low all day until they were nice and tender. And then I also did some shredded chicken in the crock pot the night before. So I just went ahead, cooked this in the crock pot with water, shredded it up, and stuck it in the fridge because I knew I was going to make this recipe. I also have a bag of Colby Jack cheese and also a bag of mozzarella that I showed in the very beginning. So for the tortillas, I've just got some fajita style tortillas that are bigger and then some smaller tortillas. I'm not sure the sizes on these, but I've got 20 of each and I don't end up using all the big ones. For the lunch size portions, I've got these snapware containers. I've showed these in a bunch of videos. They're just glass dishes with plastic snap-on lids. I've got a bunch of them pulled out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line these with foil and use these smaller flour tortillas for my actual enchiladas. These will be my lunch portion enchiladas. So I just push the foil into the containers and kind of form it around the containers, and this way I can take the frozen enchiladas out of these containers and store them in the freezer without the glass dishes. So it saves me a lot of room in the freezer, just not having all these dishes, and then I can use these dishes later on for other things. So when I pull these out of the freezer, I just plop one back into a glass dish and bake them like that. Since I had made some enchiladas the night before, I knew how many tortillas I had left, and I had enough for 5 of these containers, where 4 of the containers would get 3 enchiladas, and then 1 container would get 2 enchiladas, which is perfect for lunch-size portions for me. So for the sauce proportions, I do 1 can of the green chili sauce, 1 can of the diced green chilies, and 1 can of the cream of chicken soup. I also put in mozzarella cheese in this part too, so I went ahead and just put in an eyeballed amount. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of this filling in the bottom of each of these containers, and that'll just keep the tortillas from sticking to the bottom. And I'm just kind of smearing it around with my spatula, and then I'm going to have to mix up more filling here. So for the next batch, I'm just mixing up 2 cans of each thing. So I've got 2 cans of the green chili sauce, 2 cans of the diced green chilies, 2 cans of the cream of chicken soup. And then I'm also going to just use the rest of my bag of mozzarella cheese and mix this all together until well combined. It does not look like the most appetizing thing out there, but it is so delicious. I absolutely love these enchiladas, and I have to confess, I've eaten most of these lunch-style portions in the last couple weeks since I filmed this video. I actually ended up having to get more supplies to make even more of these for the freezer because I have almost eaten all of them up. It's just one of my absolute favorite food things right now. I just can't get enough of them. Once I had all the rest of my filling nice and well combined, I'm going to set up my little station here for making the enchiladas. For these lunch style ones, I'm just going to be making cheese enchiladas. So what I do is I put some filling on there, I just smear a little bit on with the spatula, and then add a little bit of cheese, and then I'm going to roll it up. And it's going to be kind of like a pinwheel roll versus an actual enchilada where all the filling's on the inside. I just like it that way a lot better, and you get like a really nice layering effect with the tortilla layered throughout. You can see I'm just rolling it kind of like a pinwheel. And then I'm going to lay the seam side down in my container, and each one of these containers will hold 3 tortillas. So I just kind of press them in to make sure that they're fitting really nicely. Now I'm going to do the same thing 2 more times and fill up this container. And once my container is full, I'm going to just smother the top of them with more sauce. So that way, when they're baking in the oven, the tops of the tortillas won't burn or anything. and it will just help this whole thing stay nice and gooey and cheesy and delicious. So I make my enchiladas obviously with flour tortillas. I just could not stand the smell of getting the corn tortillas. I know traditionally enchiladas are made with corn tortillas, but I really prefer the flour ones anyway for this kind of dish, just because I want it to be gooey and soft and kind of melt in your mouth type of effect. When I'm done smothering this, I just cover the foil around the edges of the dish and then snap on the lid and stick this in the freezer. So I'm going to do this 4 more times with those dishes that I had left and use up all these tortillas. Then we'll move on to the enchilada casseroles. Now all 5 of these are ready to stick in the freezer, and all I have to do once they're frozen is take each one of them out of the foil and stick them in a plastic bag so I save some space in my freezer. Now for the enchiladas, I'm using the same Ziploc containers I used for the chicken pot pie. I lined them with foil, and then I just layer my ingredients. So I'm going to layer some sauce in the bottom and then alternate whatever I layer between this. So it's kind of like layering up a lasagna, except it's just with these ingredients. So I've got my filling at the bottom. I'm going to do a layer of tortillas. And since I'm using a square container for a round tortilla, I'm going to break these up a little bit and fit them inside so that they're nice and covered on the bottom layer. So it does take a little bit of tearing and figuring out how to get each piece covering whatever section is left exposed. So I do just kind of rip it and play around with it to get it to fit. Next, I'm going to add more of the filling, and then I have these green peppers and onions that I sauteed I'm going to put in with this next layer. Just kind of spread them around a little bit with the filling. Then another tortilla, and again I'm breaking it so that it fits nicely inside my container. This should still be 2 meals for me, so like maybe a large dinner and a smaller lunch, or 2 normal sized dinners. Just depends on how hungry I am for that first one. Then another layer of filling, and I'm going to do some shredded chicken in this layer as well. Then for my last 2 layers, I'm going to put a tortilla and then a little bit more filling over the top, just to make it so that the top of the tortilla won't get too brown in the oven. Then I'm going to wrap my foil around the edges and snap on the lid. I ended up making 2 of them that are exactly the same like this. I didn't end up using the pinto beans, and I had a lot of the shredded chicken left, so I just packaged those up in some Tupperware containers for the freezer. I like the pinto beans just heated up with a little bit of cheese and some mild sauce with them, and then the chicken I can use for any kind of recipe coming up. This is how I always store shredded chicken, so any kind of shredded chicken recipe is super duper easy. I just grab one of these containers of shredded chicken out of the freezer and cook. So that is it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you really like these freezer meal videos. I will try to do these about monthly or every 2 weeks. I'm not exactly sure. It just depends on how quick we eat up the food and how motivated I feel to keep up with the freezer meals once my little baby gets here. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and be sure to subscribe so you know when I update. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye!